So the data gathering, we've identified, as Liam's articulated there, what some of the source problems are, what you're trying to achieve, aligning that to business outcomes, identifying stakeholders who are going to influence any success of an adoption of Azure technologies and changing the IT functions. Now, what we really need to do is gather intelligence. Do we know what we've got deployed? Do we know where our systems sit? Do we know what dependencies? Do we know what bottlenecks there are within my environment? How am I able to capture that to make sure that I can then make decisions on metrics? So we've broken down the data gathering components into three kind of key areas here. The first one is very much gathering data, is going in, like I said, understanding what's behind the scenes, what's under the rug, what's behind the cupboard, all these nasty servers and services that you've got. We need to see that. There's no point hiding behind a monolithic application. It's going to be hard to move. Let's get in and let's understand why it's hard to move. What does it impact? How important is that to the business? Where are some of the risks to that? So deploying tools, gathering data, gathering metrics from the services is really a key first step to get to make decisions from. Once we've got that data, it then leads to some of the other components there that you can see. So the design phase and some of the outputs, making sure that we understand what's possible with what you've got, making sure we have a comprehension of how we want to triage the workloads with this 5R mechanism that we'll go into a bit later. Identifying a target state, we'll go into that a bit later as well, and looking at cost modelling. How much is this going to cost me? No one knows yet until we get that base foundation of understanding data and intelligence. We're unable to make assumptions on the rest of them. We can't make an educated decision on how much is my migration going to cost me going forward. So we really need this to be done at the beginning, and it's so important to the success of the migration as we go forward. And Liam, if you move on quickly, in fact, Microsoft also offer an assessment. So if you don't want to undertake this work yourself, there are tools out there. We'll go into a minute about Azure Migrate and some of the other tools. If you don't want to do that yourself, you're uncertain, we can help you, or Microsoft themselves will help you. They will come in and they will do an economic assessment or a solution assessment scan on your environment. They will capture the data for you. It's a free engagement. Microsoft will fund the engagement. They'll pay for the tools, they'll pay for the engineering resources. All you need from your side is the ability to allow them access to certain areas and to download appliances and provide tooling and go through your change and governance process to allow Microsoft access to that data. That data is yours afterwards. It's not Microsoft, it's not our partners, it's not ours, it's your data. So you can use that as you wish to go forward. Microsoft will show back at a high level what the data means, and then we will take that data to then feed into some of the other phases here. Go next, Liam. Look at the tooling itself. So Azure Migrate is becoming the center of everything that you do within a migration mechanism for Azure, as the name would suggest. Previously it was quite a lightweight tool that would give you kind of high level insight into what you're trying to do, but more and more Microsoft are investing capability into this tool, accelerated by the procurement of a company called Movair. So you can see at the bottom of the tooling capability there, Movair has been placed into the left. It's no longer a third-party tool. So all of that capability, the ability to look at dependencies, the ability to right size and scan the environment is being embedded into the central Azure toolkit. Sorry, you just mute yourself for a minute unless you got a question. No, perfect. In terms of what the capability of the Migrate scanning tool set can give you, I mean, you can read the names there. So from the left, if you're looking at a server assessment, let's look at our servers. I've got Windows servers, Linux servers, whatever flavor they are, what type of operating system they are, how they're dependently linked to each other. I'm dependent on DNS and Active Directory. I'm dependent on an SQL database. All of these are mapped and modelled into Sorry, go on. Are modelled into the tool, so it allows you to run assessments to capture all of this data into that one single hub. If you're looking at databases in particular, how do I know that my database works with maybe a platform service, maybe a managed instance or an Azure SQL service? What blockers have I got there? Well, let the tool go in there and run and look at the schemas, look at the structure of your databases, look at some of the dependencies that are in there as well, and identify these blockers. If we know that there's an identity model, using Windows logins for something, okay, well that's not going to work as we move. We need to move to AD. Okay, we understand that, and we know that's not going to block us when we come to performing a migration. And the same for the web tier. More and more information is available. I'm moving a .NET application, I want to move that to a web app. Well, is that achievable? Well, straight away we can go in and have a look and say, yes, it's achievable. No, it's not going to be achievable. You have to do X, Y, and Z before we can get into that, that way of deployment. So straight away, it's going to answer a lot of the unknowns that you've got as an adopter of Azure services. So deploying the tools really arms us with that intelligence and that information to make sure that we're able to make the right decisions going forward. And integration with third-party tools. So Microsoft are very good at inviting partners and having that ecosystem of extra value that sits above the service that Microsoft are able to offer. So you can see there, Lakeside, for example, they provide a SysTrack tool which concentrates on VDI deployments. So if you're moving to Windows Virtual Desktop and you're looking at, well, how many, I've got 200 users, but I don't know what they do. I don't know how much resources they need. I don't know how to optimize. I don't know how to scale. Lakeside will sit there in the background and it will capture all of these metrics. It will monitor what your users are doing, how they're using Teams, Outlook, Excel, how they're using maybe graphics, CAD design work, or they're doing models within an AI algorithm, how they're using resources, and then they'll map that to an assessment, which will then allow you to then say, well, I know my users are doing the X, Y, and Z, which means I can scale and size my environment for that capacity. And we've used tools previously, Flexera, some of the tooling there, CloudMice we've used, but more and more we're seeing actually the use of these third-party tools are being consolidated into the capabilities of Azure Migrate. So that's becoming very much the centre of our migration and assessment gathering state. Go to the next one, Liam. So the results you get back, as I've explained there, it will capture your whole on-premise environment or other cloud providers. So if you've got stuff already in Azure, or you've got stuff in Google or Amazon or another hosted provider, it doesn't really matter. We can make sure that we can scan the environment. If you want to go to the next level and look at dependencies, yes, we can install agents onto the operating systems. We'll make sure we go through change control and the whole security and governance component there. But the dependencies you can see from the diagram at the top right there really help us understand, if we move one server, I'm not just moving one server, I'm moving a dependency to 20 other things, and it's almost like playing whack-a-mole. You move one thing, you break 10 other things. So it's understanding what the dependencies are, which will help later to allow us to identify migration waves and how we're going to get workloads from where they are to Azure as well. Also, the Azure resource consumption element will identify what the costs could be. If I'm moving from an 8-core server with 32 gig of RAM, well, okay, Azure Migrate will assess that and say, well, do you need that? Only because you've assigned it doesn't mean the server's using it. It might be underutilized, it might be overutilized. So let's make sure that we give the resource the right level of attention, so that when we move it, we're moving it to the right product. So we might say, actually, 8 cores and 32 gig of RAM. Well, actually, it's not using all of these 8 cores, so I might move that to maybe a D series VM within Azure. So maybe a D4 with four processors, and that will then allow me to put a cost to that workload and say, well, if I power that VM on for 730 hours, I'm going to get a cost straight away for using a D4 coming from where it is to where it needs to be. I've got some understanding of compute costs and also storage costs as well. Move on to the next, Liam. So the assessment will also give you the results back, and Microsoft will play this back to you. So you can see here as an example, customers engage with Microsoft in Cloud Direct to go through this whole cloud economic assessment. But that's going to provide, like the slide says, the grounding for the identification of the strategy and planning. So from the graphic, you can see, well, we've scanned 152 potential servers that this company has. 88 of them are in scope, and we've managed to right size 86 of them. So there's 2 there that we haven't right sized. Maybe they're physical, maybe they're Linux servers that we didn't have agents deployed onto. There's other bits there that we may have missed, but we've got 98% coverage, so that's fantastic. Having that level of confidence to go in and say, well, I know what you've got, I know what it looks like, I know how it's configured, allows us to then make really great decisions based on actual data. And there's some other useful things there to see how utilized your server is, how active they are, and how much storage we're looking at moving. So you can see there that I've got 230 terabytes. That's a lot of data, but it's only 54% used. Okay, well, maybe I'm not going to move blank zeros and blank space over to Azure. So let's make sure we're right sizing not just the compute elements, but also the storage, and using the right tier of storage really allow us to do some of that. Next one, Liam. So with this scan data, it does allow us to start answering some of the intangible elements of a migration. So as an Azure architect, working with commercial guys and girls within our organization, and previously outside of Cloud Direct, I've always been asked, how much is this going to be and how long is it going to take? No one really knows until we get this data, and this is exactly what it's for. Starting to answer some of the assumptions, starting to place data in there so that we can start to put quantification around the levels of effort required to achieve this migration. It's identifying the factors that can affect a migration as well. Just because a server is running 2012 gives you, there's some level of migration complexity. If it's running 2003, it's a good indication that that's going to be hard to migrate, because I can't do it. I have to re-architect that service or uplift that service before I get that into Azure. So having identification of certain parameters and applying quantification to that really does help us going forward. So the areas that we concentrate on are next in. Ideally, the resource. So you can see there, how big is the workload? How, if I'm moving a lot of data, I'm moving a large in-memory database. The complexities there are indicated by the scale of resources. This machine is big, therefore, it's a lot of resources allocated to it, so it's going to be kind of central and critical to my environment going forward. So therefore I probably need to spend a lot of care and attention on that machine, because the size of the resources dictate that. If I know some of the complexities of the service as well, and how coupled the application is within the environment. So if I know it's my core finance application that's linked into time management components, maybe warehouse distribution, stock control, sales and marketing, I know that it has feeds into many other systems that I know from a high level it's going to be difficult to move. So therefore I need to flag that as a potential concern. If it's just a standalone server that's for test and dev, well, I know that's going to be quite easy. And if that went wrong, or there's I missed something there, then the repercussions of that aren't going to cripple my business and erode some of the confidence in this migration. Knowledge of the system is kind of invoked with confidence. So how much do we know about this system? If the system's been sat there for 20 years, the team that put it in have long gone, and it's just no one turns it off because everyone's scared of it not coming back on. Okay, well, straight away that raises a red flag for me, is that if I'm going to move this, because I want to make sure that I've got confidence that this will come back up, and it's articulated and designed in a way that it will be successful during its migration. And once it's in Azure, it's built in the right way. Otherwise, we might look at trying to go through and re-architecting and refactoring components to make sure that it is cloud ready, rather than just rehosted into an Azure service. And like we said, dependencies, they're critical to the success. I need to understand who else is talking to this machine and what else this service and this machine talks to. Infrastructure dependencies are fine. I need AD, I need DNS, I need antivirus, I need backup. Yeah, fine, we can replicate them in Azure quite easily, and that's part of the landing zone construct. But when it comes to other service dependencies, it's like, well, I'm reliant on this database because I query it to get some group allocations, or I then get a report from this file share, I then have to move something else. Suddenly you've got this big ecosystem and big footprint that this service depends upon. And this could be 20, 30, 40 servers that comprise a workload. And that's where, you know, breaking a migration down into waves really does help, but also helps us align waves to workloads rather than just servers. So instead of just going through, I'll move server 1, 2, 3, 4, it's actually I'm going to move workload 1, which comprises of server 8, 9, 6, 14, 24, whatever they are. You know, they're not kind of all organized in a nice fashion like that, unless you've got a really organized environment. Move on to the next one, Liam. So what we do at Cloud Direct is we start applying metrics again, because everything's about metrics today, to what we know. So, you know, the central migration score is really about confidence in that migration and risk of that migration happening successfully. So we can weight that. So we can say, well, I know there's a dependency to a database server, so I'm going to add 70. If there's not one there, we won't add a score. You know, okay, it's a server 2012 R2 instance. Okay, that's brilliant. I know it's 64-bit. I know it's supported in Azure. Brilliant. It's 150. If that was maybe server 19, it would be a lesser score. If that was a 2003 box, you know, that would be a massive score, hopefully, you know, because, you know, there's an element of risk presented to us, not just Cloud Direct, but to you in moving that server because it's an unsupported operating system. So you can see how this builds up the score. You know, the more information we've got to the workload will allow us to create this migration score. Go to the next one, Liam. And that feeds into the service we have, which is the Azure migration estimation tool. And that allows us to propose time to migrate and cost to migrate. So we triage each workload, we group them together, we use the underlying data from Azure Migrate, from MoveAir, from Cloudomize, you know, the underlying metrics that make, you know, our decisions for us. We place that with metrics that we know from talking to you, from interviews with stakeholders, from interviews with the technical teams and you know, product owners or service owners within your organization. You know, that then allows us to paint a really good picture and allows us to then start saying, well, I know some answers at this point. When you say how long and how much is my migration going to be, well, I can place some tangibles to that at this point. Yeah, okay, it's going to take you 30 days because I know that I'm rehosting this, I'm refactoring this, I'm moving this from A to B. You know, I know how long it takes to move a server, so therefore I can work that out based on risk. And once I've got the time, I can then allocate cost to that because, you know, we have rate cards, we have a mechanism to work out how much an engineer or how much an architect or how much a consultant costs to perform a certain task. So that allows us to then paint a picture. You can see from the example here, we've got migration score of 150. You've got some total hours to migrate, 13.2 hours. That works out to about 2 days. We're not going to kind of go down to 20 minutes in a day. So you're looking at kind of 2 days worth of effort. The total cost to migrate could be worked out from that. You know, suddenly you've got some costs, and then you can start budgeting around that and say, well, from a project perspective, if I know it's going to take me 30 days, okay, I need 30 days of change management control. I need 30 days of buy-in from the business. You know, I need some testing. I need to schedule downtime potentially. There's all these other bits that you know needs to happen, and then cost. You know, I need to make sure I've got budget allocated. You know, maybe I want to plan 20, 10, 15% overrun or underrun. You know, I just need to make sure I've got everything lined up based on metrics that have allowed us to inform a migration decision for you. From the next one, Liam. So once we've got some costs, things that can affect that massively. This hasn't come out very nice for some reason. Is this concept of a North Star vision. There's normally a background on there that you can see, and it's really aligning. It's really about aligning your business and IT strategies together. Yeah, it's not come out very nice. So I'll just talk about it quickly and then we can move on. The North Star vision as such is something that you as an organization should be aiming towards, whether that's scalable and efficient delivery of IT, or making sure that we can deliver new products for our sales team to go and market and sell, or I want to deliver, I want to move away from my data center so that I have a true understanding of costs. I want to make sure my organization is more efficiently run. I've got a better understanding of costs because we need to reinvest budget somewhere else, or we need to reduce some of the spend. This North Star vision will allow both the company and the IT department to focus efforts onto this end vision. This end vision might not be achievable. It might be something that you're aiming towards, but these subsequent horizon shifts that you see before there will allow the business to make sure that the decisions it makes throughout the entire engagement affect the North Star vision. So if it's not making the next phase more achievable, or it's not aiming towards that North Star vision, then why are we doing this project? You can see from the example here, we've got a platform infrastructure modernization. So me doing this now will make sure that I am able to achieve that North Star vision later, because I need to uncouple my services from an on-premise data center. I need to move out of old tin, old kit. I need to make sure that I'm moving away from capital expenditure to an operational expenditure model, and I need some visibility of where the costs are. That's fantastic. That's going to help me achieve this vision. Then we can start looking at maybe elastic compute components. I want to be able to scale up and down, or I want to make sure that I've got a secure development lifecycle. So we're using DevOps to push code into different repositories and escalate code from different environments, from test, dev, QA, staging, pre-production, whatever you call it, before it gets into a live production environment. And I want to do that secure in an efficient manner that my developers can really deliver function to my end customers. And that will then enable other horizon shifts that say, look, my cloud operating model now needs to be modernized. I've got engineers, I've got users, I've got staff that are sat there changing disks and tape. Well, suddenly I've got a different requirement from the organization. I need to mature my operating model around that. And product development as well. So suddenly I'm not waiting every 3 months for a new version of my product. I can iteratively deploy code to a live system, going through different deployment techniques, CI/CD pipelines potentially, of delivering extra value and extra service and extra security updates to my end users. So suddenly I'm not worrying about there's a major version out next year, everyone has to update, everyone has to go through this process. The application is installed and updated in the background, and it's that smoother experience for your end users. And that will lead to cost optimization. You can see here from this example that these horizon shifts will allow you to ultimately try and aim towards that North Star vision. That North Star vision will change. It will move with things like COVID and Brexit, and external factors will affect this. But as long as you can make decisions that align with that strategy, you're putting your IT department and your business in a safe and good place.